Hi guys, and welcome to this video on the full moon in Aquarius, which happens on the 1st of August 2023. Thanks for joining me. It's a pleasure to be with you today. My name is Gregory Scott. I'm an astrologer, tarot reader and numerologist here on YouTube. The chart you see next to me here, that's a snapshot of the sky at the moment this full moon is going to take place. And what I'm going to do in this video is I'm going to look at how the planets interact with each other, what energy they create amongst themselves. And then I'm going to look at what positive influences arise from those relationships and how they influence all of us down here. And what potential negatives are likely to arise along with the good stuff. The thinking behind these horoscopes is that if you have an awareness of what's coming up, then you can make use of the positives and avoid some of the pitfalls here. So I'm going to have a look at this chart. The full moon in itself happens on the 1st of August 2023 at 7:31 in the evening, and that's based on Central European time. Now, I always mention this, and I want to mention it again today. You're not just going to feel the effects of this full moon at 7:31 on the dot, that minute, right? It's a gradual process. So I always say a new moon and a full moon are 3-day events, and you're going to feel this starting the 31st of August. The 1st of August is when it culminates and it's most intense, and then the 2nd of August as well. All right, so this full moon, first of all, it's known as the sturgeon moon, and I had to look up the sturgeon because I didn't know what that was. I knew it was a kind of fish, but I didn't know if it was edible or not. So a sturgeon is this huge fish, and not a particularly pretty one, but apparently they're delectable. That's what Wikipedia said. And the fish, I always interpret it as a sign of abundance and prosperity and having more than enough. And if you look at the time of year this is happening, astrology is based on the northern hemisphere, right? So we've got this at the height of summer. That's when there are plenty of fish. Life is easy, the flowers are out, the weather is warm, you can go outside. It's not particularly hard to take care of yourself. It's at the end of summer when you have to store things up and get organized in order to prepare for winter, but that's really not the time that we're in. It's a time of abundance and plenty and having more than you need, and really being able to enjoy your life and nature and other people. And what's that song? Isn't there a song called I'm not going to sing, so I will spare you that. But in the summertime, living is easy, right? And that's really what the sturgeon embodies to me. Now, also, what's really interesting about August is that we don't just have one full moon the way we usually do. We've got 2 full moons. So this one here on the 1st of August, and then another one on the 30th of August. And when we have 2 full moons in a month, the second one is known as a blue moon. And I think that's where the saying comes from, once in a blue moon, because it's something that's really rare. Now, the full moon in itself is when the sun and the moon oppose each other by 180 degrees. The moon is very, very visible. It's completely lit up, and it reaches this completion point in its 28-day cycle. And for the moon, when it does become full, it's about getting the attention and letting go of something and sharing your energy. So it's a dialogue almost between the moon and us down here on planet Earth when we're closest, right? That's also why a lot of people kind of notice disruption to their sleep pattern during a full moon, because the energy is so intense. Now, the fact that we have 2 full moons in August means that this isn't going to be a boring month. It's going to be intense. You'll have lots of ideas, lots of energy, lots of kind of the desire to try new things. And if you look at it that way, it could even be too much of a good thing, where you have so much energy that if you don't have an outlet for that, it could translate into kind of anxiety or being frustrated in some way. The other thing, so this is kind of complicated, is that this is a supermoon, and so is the other full moon at the end of August. A supermoon is simply when the moon is closer to the Earth than it usually would be. And because it's closer, it appears bigger, it's closer to us, so we feel the influence even more. So the fact that we have 2 supermoons in August, don't expect this to be a month where nothing is going on, or you're not meeting new people, or you're not having new ideas. It's going to be busy. You're kind of expected, or there's a push for you to engage with life and your circumstances, and to, within that engagement, kind of step back a little bit and look around and see what the options are for you and how you can tweak things. So you're right in the middle of life here. what I was thinking about, if you have a full moon in your birth chart, then you have that energy for life, right? And people who have a full moon in their birth chart have this larger than life quality. They're either very charismatic or very beautiful or talented in a particular area. So for instance, a full moon in Aquarius is very much associated with ideas and the inventor. It gives you a special talent which is so strong that it kind of emanates from you, and other people kind of pick up on that and notice that. You're like an attention puller. Whereas people who have a new moon in their birth chart are much more about pioneering and being the kind of black horse who listens and then takes all the information and makes something fabulous happen on their own. Okay, so here we do have a full moon in Aquarius. The sign of Aquarius is also known as the water bearer, even though it's an air sign, right? And it's kind of similar to the star in the tarot. It's about letting go of the negativity and the past and difficult emotions so that you can make space for new ideas and new experiences, connecting with people, teaching. The sign of Aquarius is also associated, like I said a moment ago, with the inventor, the scientist, the educator, but it's also associated with the humanitarian and the philanthropist and I said educator, but the teacher of any kind of information. Air, the element of air, is about communication, thinking, the way you perceive the world, making decisions, and using logic and reason and memory to make sense of things, right? So Aquarius doesn't just stop at that. Aquarius says, oh, I've made sense of things. How can I share this information and turn it or produce it or manifest it in a way so that it's designed to help the greater good, if that's English, to make a positive contribution through my ideas. So I'm not keeping them to myself. I've had this fabulous idea or invention for the toaster, you know. I'm not just going to have a toaster at my house. I'm going to patent the thing and sell it or give it away for free and make sure that other people can toast their bread. So it's very giving in that sense. The sign that rules, not the sign, the planet that rules Aquarius is Uranus. And Uranus is interesting. It's the planet of the chaotic, the unexpected, the miraculous, like anything can happen. It's that surprise factor. Like for instance, just as an example of Uranus, yesterday I had a really busy day and I had lots of things scheduled. And I went to one of these appointments at 3 in the afternoon and I came back from that and I ran into some people I know and we got talking. And the afternoon turned out completely differently than I'd planned, and it was just so fun and interesting to kind of be derailed a little bit from everything that was in place. So sometimes Uranus can be very unpleasant, like if you're trying to hang on to something and keep everything as it is or as it should be, then if Uranus comes in, it's very unwelcome because it shakes everything up and it's turmoil and chaos and doing things differently. So if you're trying to maintain the status quo, it's not so great. But if you're in a situation where you're like, I want change, or even the influence of Uranus would say, I long for change, I don't want to just be in the same routine every day. I want something drastic and fun and thrilling to happen, then Uranus certainly provides that, okay? So Uranus is the ruler of Aquarius, and we do have this full moon in Aquarius. The moon in itself is your heart, it's the way you feel, right? If we've got two luminaries in the chart. We've got the moon and the sun. And the moon is about your inner world. It's your feelings, it's your heart, it's your intuition, it's your connection to source, it's your roots, what makes you feel grounded and at home and safe. And the sun is kind of what you're striving towards on a conscious level. In my everyday awareness, what am I working towards? What strengthens me? What can I acquire? Who can I be? How can I take charge of things? The sun I often equate with the solar plexus chakra, your control, your energy. And the moon I would equate with, I would equate that with your heart chakra, but also with your third eye chakra, your crown chakra. It's that sense of connection with something bigger and otherworldly that feels like home, and something within my love where I feel connected, where I feel rooted and grounded and safe. So the moon in Aquarius really means, I have this strong desire to engage with information, to learn something new, to broaden my horizons. And not only do I want to learn something for myself, I want to see how I can use all of my experience and knowledge and how I can turn that around or turn that into being a really, really positive contribution to the lives and experience of other people. So if you're a scientist, an inventor, an educator, great. You'll be on top of your game. Communication will come easily. You'll be able to adapt your work and what you're working on and bring in new ideas and let go of things that are outdated. The thing about Uranus, it is not rigid. It's not set in its ways. It says, a change is as good as a rest. If I want to progress in life, of course I have to change. So nothing here is about clinging on to the past or trying to be rigid and inflexible in order to maintain some sort of illusory sense of security. That's not the case here. I want change, I want to learn, I want to see what's useful and what isn't. And I'm not shy to share that. In fact, the spotlight, it's interesting because Leo opposes Aquarius, right? So Leo likes to be a leader, likes to be in charge and to have fun. Aquarius is also in the spotlight, but it's really different and the intention is totally different. For instance, someone with dreadful social anxiety could thrive during this full moon in Aquarius if an idea appears that is important enough for that person to feel like, do you know what? It doesn't matter if I have social anxiety or not. This information that I've got here is so important that I need to find some way to get it out there. So it's not about me, it's about the message, it's about the information. So it really is very trustworthy in the sense that anything that you hear or anything that is suggested to you during this time is very likely to be information that you can trust and information that is less about the person delivering the message than usual. People are going to be far more generous and open-minded and willing to learn than they usually are. And to me, that kind of says there's a sense of harmony and almost like a sense of brotherhood of man. And then to take that even further, we've got the moon at 9 degrees, right? 9 in numerology is spirituality and completion. In the tarot, it is the Hermit. And it's about the end of a cycle and saying, okay, rather than just taking action and not questioning anything, I'm going to take a quiet moment here and I'm going to reflect on what my life is and what it's been and what it could be, and I'm going to try and find some sort of meaning out of what has happened. And I'm also going to try and hear the voice of my higher self or my conscience or a higher being to guide me and to give me information that I don't have access to yet. So the number 9 is kind of like a spiritual researcher in the sense that it wants to look at the bigger picture and make sense of what's important and what isn't. So if you combine that searching quality of the Hermit with the scientific know-how and willingness to adapt and learn of Aquarius, you're really someone who's very, very informed. You're like a scientific hermit. You're a maths genius who's also a spiritual, who's massively spiritually aware. So the elements of that, I would associate the Hermit with water. If you disagree, feel free to, and let me know what you associate the Hermit with. But the reason I associate the Hermit with water is because water rules spirituality and connection and our feelings. And the Hermit goes within to try and find answers. So he goes within in order to connect on a bigger level. And Aquarius connects with the real world, with information. It goes externally in order to share information and in order to learn and study. So there's a nice balance between the inner and outer here. The moon is completely lit up by the sun. The sun is at 9 degrees in Leo at the moment. So the sun is really happy in that placement. The sun rules Leo. Leo is a fire sign. It's really about enjoying this time of year when things are warm and the flowers are out and you're able to kind of enjoy easy times and focus on the fun and to be in the spotlight and to perform and to lead and to have your voice heard and to feel confident and to have fun with that confidence. Like as a performance artist, I would associate with Leo. So the sun, the center of our solar system, warmth, life, control, the center of our being, in Leo is very happy, and it's very easy for the sun in Leo to tap into these positive aspects of life and to enjoy them. And that is also at 9 degrees. So The sun in Leo gives you a lot of energy. It means you're able to go outside and to enjoy the kind of practical, physical aspects of your existence, of your experience. But at 9 degrees, it's almost like you're stepping back from what you're doing and you're watching yourself, almost like the observer. And you're like, what does make me feel confident? What gives me a sense of empowerment? And with the connection or the mirror of the moon here in Aquarius, I want to use my energy to do something good, either for others, or I want to use my energy to figure things out about my life, what my existence means, and really what's important in future. So if you have questions around what should I do for work, or how can I use my energy most effectively, or what's most thrilling to me, how can I get a kick out of life by doing something that's outside of my comfort zone that I don't do just yet, or even, if you find that personally on your own there's some sort of imbalance in your personality. Like, let's say you work very hard, but every week or so you get really angry and you blow up. Could be, right? And you're like, what do I do about this? Do I go into therapy? Do I meditate? Do I take medication? What do I do? From an astrological perspective, I would say that, for instance, blowing up with anger every couple of days, that would be excess fire in your chart, right? So finding a way of channeling that fire, this full moon in Aquarius is going to allow you to, again, step back and zoom out and get a perspective on your own behavior and what it means and what you can do to change that. So with the excess fire, what I would suggest is some heavy duty exercise, something that really trains and works you very hard. So by the end you're exhausted and then you don't have the energy to waste, you see? So any kind of fallouts are going to be less likely. But that's something that during this full moon you can discover for yourself. So it doesn't have to be that specifically. It could be anything that you're dissatisfied with. So it's not just being about service to other people, it's about being of service to yourself. Then we have the full moon forming a trine with Ceres, the planet of abundance and wealth. It's like a cornucopia of endless plenty, right? That's at 12 degrees in Libra. And that's really great because the sun in Leo is very personable and very likable because it's positive. So people are attracted to positive things. Ceres in Libra is super charming and creative, and it means that you can articulate your ideas very, very well. It even means like it's the difference between being a teacher teaching maths and kind of being lyrical about the maths that you're teaching and kind of telling a story to make it more accessible to the people listening. So you're kind of creative and very charming. And 12 degrees, 1 and 2 is 3. 3 in numerology is communication and new beginnings. So it's a good time to chat to people about specific ideas and information that you've received, but it's also a good idea to socialize with other people and to see what other people are telling you, because something that another person says in passing or deliberately could really make the penny drop for you and say, oh wow, that's a great idea. And then you kind of put it through your own filtration system. You come up with something of your own that's even greater, and that can be the prompt for you to really have these fabulous new ideas that are totally outside of the box. Then we have a quincunx between the full moon in Aquarius and Mars in Virgo. A quincunx is a harmonious relationships between two planets where they're 150 degrees apart, and they kind of work together. Mars is drive and ambition. I don't know why, but I'm just thinking little Napoleon for Mars right now. And in Virgo, Mars is very good at pouring through pages and pages of information and sifting through loads of kind of inbound stuff. Virgo is associated with the nurse. It's ruled by Mercury, the communication planet. And Virgo is the end of summer when you're sorting the food for winter, the stuff that's still good and that you can put into storage, versus the stuff that's going to spoil or already has spoiled, right? So it's, this is good, this is bad. I'm using my judgment here to analyze and make sense of in order to protect myself in future. And Mars in Virgo at 13 degrees here says, my desire is to pour over all the information that is accessible to me, to absorb it, to break it down, to make sense of it, and then to come up with my own answer, my own meaning. So the quincunx with Mars and the moon in Aquarius really makes you the top researcher here. And anything that is unclear to you, if you study it, you will get answers. So that is anything: your health, your relationship, your work, your living situation, your plans for the future, your perspective on things that haven't worked in the past. answers to kind of things. Why can't I break out of this addiction or this pattern or this way of being? What else could I do? Or how can I adapt my own identity for it to be less demanding and less problematic? So you can invent almost a new identity or an upgraded version of yourself with the sense of, do you know what, I've graduated this stuff. So for instance, if you've got a pattern that you really want to study, right? But you go to different universities and you just keep getting kicked out for some reason, over and over again. It happens. It doesn't happen to all the students, but it happens to you, for example. You may be like, do you know what? That was the 13th university here. I don't want to keep doing this. What is it that gets me kicked out? And that may be a little too obvious, that example. But even that kind of question, because if you've been kicked out 13 times, you don't need a full moon in Aquarius. You can figure it out yourself, right? This is something that is subtler and that isn't quite as glaring. If you meditate on that, if you analyze it and make sense of it, you'll get an answer and meaning that will help you break the pattern and nurse yourself as such. Let's see, what else? So the sun obviously then opposes the moon and vice versa. The moon opposes the sun. Then the moon also forms a square with Jupiter 13 degrees in Taurus. Jupiter is the planet of expansion, growth, good luck, good fortune. And at 13 degrees in Taurus, it's very much about success and abundance stemming from the physical world. Taurus is an earth sign. Earth rules your work, your body, your physical health, your strength, your living situation, anything that exists on planet Earth, right? So what Jupiter does is it immediately grounds all of this stuff. If you have this fabulous new idea, you're not just going to circle the atmosphere with it and be super impractical. You'll immediately find a way of, oh, this is how I can express it. So if you, I don't know, a budding journalist and you come across this amazing story, you'll immediately find the outlet where you can share that story with other people in order to inform for the greater good. So you're not going to be at odds with all of this saying, oh, I've got all of these ideas and all of this knowledge, I just don't know how to implement it. That struggle isn't going to be there. You're immediately going to hit the ground running and do something with it. Then we have the full moon forming a semi-square, so it's 45 degrees away from Neptune at 27 degrees in Pisces. Yikes. Okay. I'm saying yikes because Neptune is the water planet of the intuition, of dreams, of your inner world. And it's in the sign that it rules, Pisces. So it's almost like a doorway to the higher realms that you can just walk through and kind of look around what's really going on. And I suppose that's why you're so inspired during this full moon in Aquarius, because the source of it is your higher self or your relationship with a higher power or your conscience. It's something intangible, right? So accessing anything intangible when Neptune's involved, it makes that much easier because your intuition is much stronger. So you're able to kind of turn the knob on the radio and tune into the exact frequency that you want much more easily. But not only that, it's at 27 degrees, which is 9, which is again spirituality and completion in the hermit. So this is Neptune at its most ethereal and mystical. And it causes friction between the moon in Aquarius, so it's like your antennas are pinging and you're constantly turning the knob to get the exact message. Really, the message I'm getting, the biggest gift of this full moon in Aquarius, something does not make sense in your life, focus on it during this time and you'll either get the answer completely and get the bigger picture, click, I get this, therefore I'm released from it, it no longer controls my life because I have understanding over it, right? Knowledge is power. Or you start to get really good clues and insights. You make major inroads on your journey to understanding whatever it is. Let's see, what else? Those are the relationships the planet, the moon forms directly. And what's interesting is that nearby, we've got Pluto at 28 degrees in Capricorn. Pluto is the planet of transformation and change, death and rebirth. It's kind of the phoenix rising from the ashes. And at 28 degrees in Capricorn, 2 and 8 being 10, which reduces to 1, it's about immediately, how can I take these ideas and implement them into something practical. How can I take action with this? It's kind of similar to Jupiter. So again, you're not just being informed in an abstract way. These are ideas that will influence your practical circumstances if you allow them to, and transform them for the better, and give you an opening, a new chapter, a new doorway that you can walk through. So even if you're thinking of changing your job, or you've been in a certain position for a while and you're like, I haven't been sure whether I still enjoy this for years, that penny is likely to drop. And then if you're like, well, then I need to change jobs or do something for myself, finding the way to do that is going to be super straightforward. You know what's interesting? When I first started doing my channel, that was in 2014, I got the message during my meditation, take your daily tarot reading and put it on YouTube. And I listened to that, I did it, and I just started filming the cards. I had social anxiety at the time, so I couldn't appear on camera, but I could do the cards because I didn't appear, right? And then it weirdly grew out of, it took on a life of its own. And then within months, I was like using a green screen and putting a different background on the back, and it just kind of grew, and it was completely an area I knew nothing about. So sometimes when you tap into something, you're swept up in the wave of it, and it takes on a life of its own. And that's what I think this is. So if you are looking to change anything, really, I would say your job, your living situation, your relationship status, your perspective on yourself, your life, there's really the opportunity to say, okay, I'm willing to change, I'm willing to do things differently, and then to immediately step into that and to go. The moon also, if you look at this chart, and this is based on Central European time, right? So here it's just after the moon rises over the horizon, and that's kind of the promise of a new day. So the ideas that are going to come in are not subtle. It's like, boom, there you go. So get ready to hear something really quite drastic, and it could even be somewhat exciting, thrilling, or even intimidating. It's like, oh wow, I'm being really asked to make some massive changes in my life here. My suggestion would be, don't shy away from that. At the very least, consider them in earnest, these ideas, because they are good ideas that you can trust. And ideally, then act on them. We've got Mercury, the communication planet, that is direct at the moment. So the information that you get is clear and straightforward. Venus, the planet of love and beauty, is at 26 degrees in Leo, and that's kind of useful during this full moon in Aquarius, because you're willing to try something new, something that you don't know whether you're going to like it or not. It's totally foreign to you, and you suspend the judgment, and you just say, well, I'm going to try it anyway and see how it goes. So you're super open-minded, and that's very helpful. And Black Moon Lilith at 22 degrees in Leo is also useful. It's kind of like, this isn't about you. This is about the information and the ideas that you can use to change your life and other people's. Looking at the center of the chart, I'm just going to make sure I didn't miss any of the aspect patterns here. We've got the semi-square, the square, the opposition. Yep. Okay, so I've looked at those. Looking at the center of the wheel, I'm going to look for major aspect patterns. So what I'm looking for are things like grand trines, grand crosses, stars of David. If you have any of those major aspect patterns in your chart, by the way, it's really interesting, because it gives you a specific talent or a particular area where you're where you can go round and round and be indecisive, and areas where you're completely balanced and super talented and aligned, and where you can really shine. So those big major aspect patterns are very important to look at. Here we don't really have any, and I'm kind of generous with major aspect patterns. Even if something is a bit squished or doesn't quite line up exactly, I usually still count it. So we've got the beginnings of a mystic rectangle, but two sides are missing, so even I wouldn't count that. Then we've got some squares. Okay, we have one T-square, which is two squares and an opposition. And that makes sense during a full moon, because the opposition between the sun and the moon is always established. Otherwise the moon wouldn't be full. So it peaks by these two other squares with Jupiter in Taurus. So that's amazing, because the sun in Leo, confidence. Of course I can work with these ideas. You know, I'm switched on, I'm awake. There's no question. The moon in Aquarius, I'm actually downloading amazing ideas. And then with the peak into Jupiter at 13 degrees in Taurus, And 13 specifically, 1 and 3 is 4, that's the emperor, that's structure, that's again authority and the ability to build something solid and long term. Using your personality and the qualities that you're being given at this time, the charm, the willingness to learn, the willingness to be in the spotlight, that's what's going to cement and build a new future if you want to build one. Wow, the opportunity to build a new future, a different future. It's like there's hope. Things don't have to be the way they have been in the past. Wow, that's really liberating, because, you know, sometimes there are certain things in life, I don't know about you guys, but for me, I can go round and round and round and have to learn the same lesson over and over and over again. And then after a while, it's like, am I ever going to be free of this? And these are the kind of blow-ups in a positive way that allow you to break free of whatever prison you feel you're in. Wow. Okay, anything else? We don't have a yod. Yes, we do have a yod, but on the other side of the chart. Okay, yod is known as the finger of God. It gives you a very particular quality. If you have a yod in your birth chart, that is really important to know, because that's what makes you really unique. Or if you kind of build on that quality, the things that come out of that, the abundance and freedom and fuel to realize your hopes and dreams, is really infinite. So this yod connects the south node in Libra with Venus in retrograde in Leo, and then they peak with Neptune at 27 degrees in Pisces. Okay, so you're able to look beyond the surface level of what you've decided is good and bad. So you're open-minded. But weirdly enough, you're even able to look beyond the surface of other people. So the expression for that I would use is you're able to look beyond personalities and you're able to focus on the principles. So you're not judgmental or closed off at all. You're able to really see beyond and to live and let live, and not try and control other people or tell them what they should say. You're just willing to pick up what's useful and to dismiss the rest. So that makes it very easy for you to interact with other people and to get what you want and to get the ideas that you want. Okay, anything else? No, we don't have a grand trine. Got, again, the makings of it. So it's almost like you're not being unduly influenced by any one area, and it means that you can maintain this open-mindedness, which is really the gift of this, because you're willing to listen and learn, and that's what then allows you to build this new great future. Okay, let's see if there's anything else that I want to tell you guys. The other thing I would say is that you'll have more success if you have this great idea and you say, how can I use it and spread it and not keep it to myself? If you do decide to just keep it to yourself and to support and help yourself through this idea, you're going to have still success, but the scope is going to be much smaller. The North Node is in Aries, next to Chiron in Aries, and it's kind of like going through this whole process during the full moon and simply riding the wave is going to allow you to heal things in your life which has been unhealed for a long time. And then Saturn in the first, at 5 degrees in Pisces, it's kind of spiritual stability and being willing to listen to what's being told. And by applying the information you get, a newfound sense of freedom and certainty within yourself. The strongest mode of the day is fixed, so it's kind of interesting that that's the case, because this is so random and so uncontrollable. But the outcome is that when you harness those ideas, you can build something really solid for the future. And the strongest element is fire. So not only do you have this great charisma and personality and energy, you're also focused on how can I now build with this. It's not scary, it's kind of exciting and thrilling. I want to be seen and heard. Yeah. Okay, so this looks super positive. Plus, remember, it's a supermoon, so you may even be a little bit bothered by the amount of ideas that are coming through. If you're a writer or a creative type of person, you're definitely not going to have writer's block here at the end of July, 1st and 2nd of August. And if you have been stuck on, the 5th chapter, and you've written a word a day for the last 2 weeks, look at it again, because I think you'll break through that inhibition and you'll be able to kind of really express yourself very clearly and very well. And that's it. Okay, so if you would like me to have a look at your birth chart, please get in touch with me for a personal reading. To draw up your birth chart, I need, same as drawing up this chart, I get a wheel in front of me as well, which I can analyze and make sense of. I need your place of birth, date of birth, and time of birth. If you don't have the time of birth, then order a chart rectification with me, please. That's a process where you give me 10 or more life events and I can actually work out your time of birth. And the chart changes every 4 minutes, so having the time of birth is kind of important and significant. And by looking at your chart, it reveals your life purpose, your strengths, your aptitudes, possible weaknesses that you can work through. It's really a blueprint of who you are. So if you have any questions about you or what's coming up in future, if you've got changes that you're thinking of making, should I change my job, should I move, what's happening for me in relationships, if you have any questions at all, please do get in touch with me. So to do that, I don't know if I've mentioned this already, sorry if I'm repeating myself, but to get in touch with me, go to the website, it's gregoryscott.com. Once you're there, scroll down a little bit and go to the button that says book your reading, click on that to order your reading with me. And also, I'm still doing the daily tarot readings. Those are now accessible to members of the channel, and thank you to everyone who's joined the channel membership. I really appreciate you. And I'm also doing live tarot readings on the channel, and again, members get their questions answered more quickly. If you like this video, then give it a thumbs up, please hit subscribe and share the video online. And check out some of my other videos. I do a weekly horoscope as well, where I go through each day of the week. And I was also thinking of trying, on YouTube there's something called YouTube Shorts, which are videos of 1 minute or less. And I was thinking of doing a daily short here on YouTube, and to just give the astrological highlight for that day. So I would call it like the daily astrology update. Let me know what you think of that, please, because I've never tried the shorts part of YouTube, and I was just looking at it yesterday and it's kind of interesting to me. So give me your feedback, please. I'd really appreciate that. I hope you have a wonderful time here during this full moon in Aquarius, and I'll speak to you soon. All the best. Take care.